In today's video, I want to answer the question, should I outsource my sponsorship sales? In other words, should I hire a commission-only person or a broker to handle my sponsorship, or should I do it in-house? Check it out. So full disclosure, we do not sell sponsorship on commission for our clients. We don't believe in this business model because it doesn't lead to the best outcome for the sponsorship seeker. And that's what we care about at the Sponsorship Collective. And in this video, I'm going to walk through why we feel this way and what you need to be aware of if you think this is the right practice for you. At the end of the video, you may disagree and choose to move forward with hiring someone to sell sponsorship on commission for you. And if you do, you'll at the very least know what to look out for. First of all, I want to address this myth that sponsorship is sold on commission only. The idea that I'm just going to hire somebody, I'm only going to pay them if they make a sale. The reason I say that this is a myth is because sponsorship brokers don't operate this way. A sponsorship broker requires a monthly retainer and a usually significant commission on top of that retainer. So when people are asking, should I hire a commission-only sponsorship person, they're asking whether or not they should hire someone who will do something that isn't done in the industry. So right off the bat, what you're looking for doesn't exist. And further to this myth of commission only, there is a belief that people will sell sponsorship for you for 1 or 2% of whatever they bring in. This is another completely erroneous belief. I'm not sure where it started, but everyone seems to think that there's a group of people who will just sell sponsorship for you because you want them to. They will do it on commission only, and you'll only have to pay them 1 or 2%. Sounds too good to be true because it is too good to be true. The fact is, this simply isn't how it works. And furthermore, anyone who agrees to do this commission-only small percentage probably doesn't have enough experience to know that what they're doing doesn't make any sense financially. In other words, if you actually find somebody who's willing to work for you for commission only and just 1 or 2% of what they bring in, you should run from this person. This is not a deal. This is a major warning sign. It means that they have no idea how incredibly complicated and nuanced and challenging and frankly expensive sponsorship sales really is. The fact is that hiring someone to work for you on a commission-only basis is incredibly high risk and incredibly low reward. How do we know? Well, my team and I speak to no less than 300 sponsorship seekers every single month who book strategy sessions with us. And there's a small number of those people who have gone down this path and managed to find someone who promises to sell sponsorship on their behalf. And in every single case, it didn't work. They only brought in sponsors that they would have closed anyway. They brought in the wrong kinds of sponsors. They made promises that the property just couldn't keep, and on and on and on. This is a high risk, low reward approach, and frankly, does not take into account the profession of sponsorship and how complicated it is. Which is why I say if you meet somebody offering you this, you should run. Because they either don't know how hard the job they're taking on is, or they know perfectly well how hard it is, and they're going to go and get the low-hanging fruit and undersell just so they can get a quick payday, and then they're going to move on. I'm not saying that every broker out there is acting poorly, unprofessionally. What I am saying is that the good brokers are extremely expensive and very selective. The likelihood that they're going to take you on as a client is close to 0%. Good brokers are expensive, they have wait lists, and they're highly selective. And so ultimately, there are really two business models when it comes to sponsorship. There's the business model we recommend, we support, and that we firmly believe in, which is that the person who cares the most wins. And the person who cares the most is you. In other words, you should build the internal capacity to sell sponsorship yourself. And what we do is help our clients to do exactly that. This is business model number one. Business model number two is that of retaining a brokerage. That brokerage will exclusively represent you. In other words, they will take care of all of your sponsorship in exchange for a retainer plus a commission. This model has you outsourcing your sponsorship. We believe in and recommend building internal capacity, but it is on occasion the right move to hire a broker, but never a broker who's going to work on commission only for 1 or 2%. Before we dive into the math and the strategy behind each of these two models, I want to address the real reason why people think they want to outsource their sponsorship. And that is risk-based decision making. In other words, you are going to pick the path that gives you the lowest amount of risk. The problem with that, of course, is that when you outsource your risk, you have to pay a premium. But risk-based decision-making is really just a fancy way of saying you don't really believe your sponsorship opportunity has legs and is going to work. And so you think that you can hand the risk to somebody else, and if they don't bring anything in, no harm, no foul, except that's not how it works. So if you outsource your risk, you're going to pay for that. But also, what if you just believed that you were going to be successful and made ROI-based decisions instead of risk-based decisions? If you actually believed that you had a $500,000 or $1 million sponsorship opportunity, would you really want to give away 30% evergreen on all of that sponsorship? I bet you wouldn't. The very idea of wanting to outsource it and pay such a massive premium for the right to do so is based on the fact that you actually don't think you're going to be successful. And that's the biggest concern. And that is why, in my opinion, there are brokers who take advantage of people because they know you are making risk-based decisions. So let's talk about the math behind deciding to hire a broker versus doing it in-house. So let's assume that what you have is a $500,000 sponsorship opportunity. You decide that you want to hire a broker. Well, a broker is going to charge $3,000 to $5,000 per month for a minimum 6-month commitment, which equals around $18,000. That's right. A broker is going to charge a monthly retainer. The lower the retainer, the higher the commission they're going to take. The higher the retainer, the lower the commission. But no retainer is not an option. So even if they come on board and don't succeed, you are in for $15,000 to $30,000 minimum. Then you agree to a 20% commission. Now, a broker is going to own your entire property and sell all of the sponsorship for it. You're not going to compete with them. It's not only the sponsorship they bring in, they're going to take over the sponsorship sales. 20% of $500,000 is $100,000. But something else you need to know is that these are evergreen fees. This is the infinity symbol. So even when you stop working with the broker, any of these sponsors that come back year over year, you still owe 20% fees to. If you grow those sponsors to $1 million or $2 million all on your own, you are still paying evergreen fees. But let's just look at 1 year of working with a broker. $118,000 for $500,000. Now I know what you're thinking, but Chris, I wouldn't have had this money anyway, so it's all gravy. That's because you hired a broker based on the assumption that you would not be successful. But if you actually believed in what you were doing, then you know you're going to be successful. And I would argue you're probably going to be better at selling than a broker anyway. And remember, a broker is only going to take you on if they know 100% with absolute certainty that they're going to be successful. So the very fact that a broker is willing to work with you is proof positive that you would have been successful anyway, and you probably should have just sold it on your own. And if you're a broker, would you rather lowball and sell a sponsorship for less money to move it faster so you can move on to your other clients? Or would you negotiate to get the highest amount? It's counterintuitive, but I know, because I've seen it happen time and time again, that brokers lower the cost of what they're selling to make a quick sale, an easy sale, so they can move on. In other words, you're paying 24% in year one. And in year two, 20%. And in year three, 20%. That's pretty expensive money. Now, if we look at the exact same scenario, and you have a $500,000 opportunity, and you decide to build internal capacity by hiring a team to give you all of the tools, the proven templates, all the systems the brokers are going to use anyway, and that cost is $10,000. You pay this one time, and year over year, you continue making $500,000 with no risk of the broker you hired being let go and then selling those contacts to somebody else. If a broker has the contacts, where do you think they got them? They got them from their past clients. Do it yourself, you maintain the contacts forever. So in year one, you're paying a total commission of 2%. So using this method, you have a 98% profit margin in year one and 100% in year two. Go the brokerage route, and you'll likely never have higher than an 80% margin. At 50,000, 100,000, that may not seem so big, but as you scale, believe me, this adds up quickly. Oh, and if you don't have a minimum $500,000 opportunity, a broker's not going to work with you anyway. So you're going to have a $500,000 opportunity to even capture their attention. No matter how you look at it, the math does not support hiring a broker. The math supports you selling sponsorship yourself. Just looking at the $500,000 example, you could hire a whole team of salespeople in-house for what you're paying in brokerage fees. And as you reach the $1 million, $2 million, $5 million mark, I can't see any math that supports outsourcing sponsorship. It's ironic that those who need a broker the most are likely those who are looking for $50,000 to $150,000, but you'll really never qualify to have a broker. And those who need a broker the least, those who are looking for $300,000 and up, you really don't need one. It's cheaper for you to do it in-house, significantly cheaper. And as I said, a broker is not going to work with you unless they can guarantee your success. They have to know you're going to be successful. How do they know? Because you've already sold the property and you've made $500,000. Or you've come to an agency like the Sponsorship Collective, and we've been able to do evaluation and an audience assessment and an audit, and we say this is a good property worth $500,000 or more. But know that a broker is not going to work with you unless they can guarantee your success. And when I say broker, I mean a real broker that charges a high monthly retainer, 20% or more commission, not the person that's promising to do this for you in their spare time for 1 or 2%. The real cost of brokerage is significant. And as I said earlier, when that broker moves on, and of course they will eventually, they've got all your contacts. This is a very high risk move. One of the most troubling things I hear is this belief that brokers have all the contacts. Actually, what a broker will do, a good broker, will follow the exact systems you would implement anyway if you did this internally. They're going to want to analyze your audience. They're going to want to build activations that you're going to have to deliver on. Then they're going to do outreach, negotiate, which you're probably going to have to be part of, and then they'll help close the deal. So they're going to cover probably 10% of the total workload, where you're going to cover the 90%. They don't come with the contacts. They come with the ability and structure and strategy. Because if they do come with the contacts, you really have to ask yourself, where did they get these contacts from? Likely, they got them from the last client they worked on. The problem with that is that you are their future past client, which means your contacts are now at risk. So this idea that someone just has this list of sponsors who take their calls is absolutely false. The chief marketing officer of every Fortune 500 company is not waiting for some broker to call them to determine where they're going to invest their marketing. They do that all on their own. A broker is simply going to do best practice sponsorship on your behalf for significantly more money than you would pay if you just learned to do it yourself. Look, the reality is that brokers are able to charge a premium, not because they have some magic wand that they can wave and create sponsorship. The reason they can charge a premium is because you're afraid. You're afraid of selling. You're afraid of failure. You think sponsorship is more complicated than it is. And so it's easy for a outsourced option to come along and offer you a silver bullet or a magic wand. If instead you change your mindset and understood that you are the best person to sell sponsorship, you are just 2 or 3 skills away from being able to do this yourself. If you can learn this yourself, implement it, and then build your own internal capacity, not only will you make more money, but you are not engaging in the high-risk behavior of giving somebody else all of your contacts. And the fact is, once you've gone through outsourcing your sponsorship sales, you're going to realize how much work is still left over for you to have to handle as a result of the sponsorship sale, that you might as well just do it yourself anyway. Brokers are not going to go off and just get sponsors and hand you cash. They're going to secure a meeting, and they're going to invite you to that meeting to be part of the negotiation. So you're not just getting a random check arriving in the mail from a sponsor and now you have money. Believe me, there's a lot more to sponsorship than just asking for cash. I think if you step back and imagine that you could actually be successful rather than thinking, how do you get all of this risk off your plate, you might make a different decision. And the fact is, whether you sell it or a broker sells it, either way, there's risk. There are no risk-free decisions, but making a decision based on the assumption that you won't be successful is not a good strategy in business. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't protect yourself and that you shouldn't mitigate risk. What it means is that you have 2 paths: the path of risk-based decision-making or ROI-based decision-making. One of those paths has a much higher reward. So what is the right model here then to move forward and sell sponsorship? Well, in my opinion, the person who cares the most wins. And the person who cares the most is the one watching this video right now. I would love to hear your key takeaways from this video. What stood out to you? What assumptions were you making about brokerage and about sponsorship in general that have been challenged by this video? And what's the one thing that you're going to do differently now that you've watched this training? And if you like this video and want us to keep making more, it would mean a lot to me if you could hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button so you never miss another video. Drop your key takeaways down below in the comment section. And remember, the sponsorship proposal doesn't make the sale. You do.